When talking previously about the 8-bit shooters that I played and owned in the past, I neglected to mention that I did in fact have a copy of Xevious the Avenger. That card is long since gone, but thanks to the very cheap prices on common Famicom cards, I now own a physical copy of the game once again. Despite being so inexpensive, it's actually a very important release, very much so, especially if we're talking about the arcade version. If you think about it, up to the point, all shooters were basically static screen, such as Galaga, which did innovate certainly with its use of complex enemy behavior, and I also had an attachment to Gorf, which had a full directional joystick, so it sort of freed you from traveling just more than left and right. But in 1982, there were two very important releases that would kind of change everything. Now, I didn't actually own an Atari at the time, so the full effect of River Raid was sadly lost on me, but it was in the pages of Joystick magazine. It was where I first heard about this other game that would sort of transform the spaceship shooter forever, and that was, of course, was Xevious. What fascinated me on reading it was this very idea that you were kind of traveling over a persistent and changing landscape. It wasn't just an anonymous starfield in space. There seemed to be, roads and buildings and rivers and things to drop bombs on, as well as enemy aircraft to avoid, a sort of two-level effect there. It also had this sort of air of the exotic in its design with its Russian named player ship and the Nazca lines you could find on the ground. And finally seeing the game in real life was a revelation, but I was too young to really be able to get very far. But the music and the graphics stuck with me, so that when I had a chance to buy it for NES some years later, I was definitely excited to do so. Although I was a bit disappointed to find that those Nazca lines weren't anywhere to be seen in that version. And apparently I wasn't the only one quite taken with the game. I think it's reputedly one of the primary reasons Nintendo approached Namco to be one of their first third-party publishers on Famicom was just to have a home version of that specific game on their system. And that affection obviously carried on, as Xevious also appeared as one of the few third-party titles to be released on the Game Boy Advance, the NES Classics, remember, and then also as a 3D Classic on 3DS. And I'm sure you probably noticed that the music inside the arcade at the beginning of the game of Earthbound is also quite clearly from Xevious. So before I get playing, I should point out that I'm going to be using my Retrobit Power Stick, which I will explain all the clicking sounds you're likely to hear. I do like the stick generally. It's really fun to do with these arcade games, but I did switch out the stock buttons with Sanwa, and that made a big difference. I like a lot more now, but I just wish the bass was a bit heavier because it's very light. But anyway, enough of that. Let's check out the game itself. All right, here we are, title screen. Not quite as pretty as the arcade version title screen, but pretty close. I feel like you can say that about the whole game, really. Not quite as pretty, but pretty close. All right, so hopefully the clicking and the button pressing won't be too loud. Like I said, I really like using this joystick with this game, so that's what I'm going to do. Yeah, I love getting 2 targets in 1 bomb. It's very satisfying. Oh, being a little bit quiet, I know. When you get into it, it takes up a lot of your concentration. Those are very small bullets coming at you. Okay, I think there's a flag here, if I can get it. I don't remember exactly where it is, that's the problem. I completely missed it. There's a special flag that comes up, it looks like the flag from Rally X. If you bomb the right spot, it pops up and you run over it and get a bunch of points. It's a bummer I missed it, but there's other little secrets like that. Hopefully I will be able to show off if I get a little bit farther. I'm practicing a bit, so I feel pretty confident in my skills right now. Let's see how it goes. It's a very clever design. You think about the bases and the tanks being more or less circular. Because it means you don't have to animate different directional poses. Like it's just a top-mounted nipple turret. So it kind of saves on graphics a little bit. Plus it also looks very alien, you know what I mean? Like it doesn't look like a tank. It doesn't look like an aircraft turret. It just looks like a sphere or a pyramid. It does make everything look a little bit more alien and not human. Yeah, free guy. And 2 down and 2 down. Nice. I like these guys. You get way fewer of them on the NES. On the arcade version, you get a bunch of them, but sprite limitations mean you can only get a few of those guys on screen at once, unfortunately. Although it's easier to navigate, obviously. Alright, here we go, another suit coming up. Gigantic pyramid, and next to the pyramid there is a hidden tower, and we blow that up. I think the next secret in the arcade would be where the Nazca lines are, but there are no Nazca lines in the NES version. I mean, this version, unfortunately. I think it's in this area, but I don't know where it is. Okay, well, so much for that. The checkpointing in this game is relatively generous. You can even skip ahead in some parts. If you get far enough in a particular stage. Like, I mean, the stages are basically invisible. Like, it's a continuous scrolling background, but there are specific checkpoint spots. Plus, it does loop after a certain point if you get far enough in the game. I have never been able to get it to loop. And not that good. Ice crystals. That's another case, like, there's just not as many of them as there would be in the arcade. So I'm pretty sure I'm right about that. Yeah, so like, I love the little landmarks, like this aircraft airport kind of thing there. Like, it's just one of these cool things about this game right from the start is, you know, you get a sense of actually traveling over a specific place. It's not just static screens. I think when this game first came out, that's one of the things that was really exciting about it. We're definitely going to play this game through to completion, because I'm pretty confident I'll be able to at least get to the first Mother base. And then we'll see how much further we go from there, and maybe I'll cut it short, maybe I won't. Okay, here we go, Mother base. Probably going to end up going for the quick kill, assuming I don't get swarmed here. Yeah, I'm just going to go for the one shot. He's down. So you see there's 4 cannons. You can take out the 4 cannons before you take out the center part. You get more points, obviously. Well, I just took it out at once so I'd survive. So I'll at least try and get to the naval base and get over the ocean. It must have been because of this game that we thought, like when Spy Hunter came out, that there was like an airport you would get to. For whatever reason, we were convinced, oh, that sucks, that if you get further to a certain point in Spy Hunter, you start driving into an airport. I don't know why we thought that, but this game kind of offers that kind of promise. Because you do actually fly over airports and bases and stuff like that. And I feel like every vertically scrolling shooter that came after this sort of, you know, touched on that. I knew it was going to happen as soon as it happened. Like, oof, yeah. Alright. I'd like to at least break 100,000, but I don't know if I'm going to do that. That's a bummer. I can usually play a little bit better than this, but as usual, you perform in front of the camera, things go bad. That's what usually works. Oh, that was so dumb. Oh, last guy already. Alright. This is it. Oh, wait, oh man, that is such a, oh, I'm sorry about the camera. Alright, well, that's a good run, not a bad run. Not the best run, but at least you've seen the game, and it's fun, it's cool. Like, we're about to bounce out of this and take you home. But yeah, cool game, what can you say? It's super. So that was Xevious. Still a lot of fun, and I think it holds up fairly well, even if it does sort of pale a bit in comparison to the arcade original. But It's a great cart to have. It's really cheap to find, and I love the artwork on it. So anyway, thanks for watching, and hopefully I'll see you next time.